Ah. Hello and welcome back to the Drama Notes. My name is Parma. Today I want to talk about Kang-hee of Motel, California. This is a drama I almost dropped the moment I started it because Nainu, who's playing Chon Yeon-soo, is in a fat suit as the teenage version of the boy. And there is this short trajectory over a few episodes where he loses weight because he's motivated not to embarrass the female lead when he meets her in the future. I hate so many things about that. I'm just full of unpleasant feelings. However, I was convinced by a couple of different arguments to continue watching. The first was that the drama does make a concerted effort to show you that the female lead does not care. She loved him, had a crush on him, had romantic feelings for him, loved him when he was fat, and continues to love him as an adult no matter how he looks. So that's nice. It's good to see on screen. And the other argument, it wasn't an argument, it's simply something I saw all over the internet. And that was how difficult it was for most viewers to like Kang-hee's character. Not being able to like Kang-hee seems to be one of the most popular reasons for dropping this drama. And if the ratings are anything to go by, people have been dropping this drama rapidly. And if this continues, this is going to become an example of one of those dramas that producers like dread, where instead of the ratings kind of going up and down every week, there is just a clear decline after a certain point, and then they start messing with the second half just to try and boost the ratings somehow. That'll be hard to do with this one because Motel California seems to be pre-produced, which means the shooting of the entire production has already been concluded. But like we covered in the last video, that doesn't always stop producers from messing stuff up in the edits. The drama is again based on a book called Home Bitter Home. What is with this trend of webtoons and books being the source of drama materials these days? Are screenwriters unable to come up with original ideas of their own? Or do producers no longer trust them to do it because popular IPs are succeeding more often these days? This is something I need to think about. Coming back to Kang-hee, who's played by Lee Se-young, she is a biracial woman, white and Korean from what we can tell, whose motel-owning single father has brought her up while living in the motel. So since childhood, she's had to battle a lot of different prejudices. One of being the daughter of a motelier. Motels, as you would know from other K-dramas, tend to have a pretty sleazy connection because unmarried couples have very few spaces where they can spend time alone. So motels tend to be patronized by them a lot, which of course is not going to be viewed very well by a conservative society. We have something similar in India, though there are plenty of places which won't even allow unmarried couples to take a room together. So Kang-hee has that prejudice to battle, but she also has the light eyes and blondish hair of her mother. She's also been brought up by a father who seems to have a very bohemian personality, which couldn't possibly have helped with the village's impression that the child is being brought up in a den of iniquity. But overall, she is disliked for the sins of her mother, the sins of her father, and just her existence puts people in a tizzy. Even if she doesn't do anything, she gets blamed for misfortunes of others. You can kind of see why such a girl would grow up to have a huge chip on her shoulder. She's defensive and prickly and quick to hit back the moment she has an opportunity if you have hurt her. She is not willing to forgive and forget. She's not going to accept your belated apology just because you are in a bad situation and you desperately need her to help you out, because she remembers that you were cruel to her for no good reason. So what I'm saying is, I love her. I've always liked Lee Se-young, but I have to say, Lee Se-young as a temperamental bitch, yeah, I like her. I like her a lot. However, as I said, plenty of people are not liking her. And it is to the point where the ratings are getting affected. So I wanted to discuss this. Why do viewers not like Kang-hee? It's easy to say that audiences just don't like aggressive, assertive women. Don't they? I've been watching K-dramas for a very long time. There are plenty of aggressive, assertive women in the thousands of dramas that have been produced in the last few decades. And audiences have actually been pretty happy with quite a lot of them. I have noticed a pattern in the kind of behavior audiences tend to flare up at, and just being aggressive or assertive is not one of them. Like, it's absolutely a valid argument to make if you're saying that audiences tend to drool over certain behavior when the male lead is displaying them, but they are like neutral to mildly hostile if it's the female lead with the same characteristics. Like in Love Scout, you have Han Jimin's character embodying the typical stoic variety of CEO. She has like repressed childhood trauma and she doesn't talk about her feelings, but she's also very straightforward, and her life is completely disorganized, waiting for the right man to come in and organize things for her. And also to feed her home cooked meal, which she hasn't had in ages. It's all of the greatest hits. And usually, audiences quite like this in male leads, but they are neutral about Han Jimin. And to that, you would say, well, what do you expect? These are like majority straight women in the audiences. Of course, they're not going to be drooling over this behavior in Han Jimin, but they would in, let's say, these guys. And yes, we will talk about audiences' love for, played by Lee Jun-hyuk in Love Scout, but this is not the video for it. That's a different video, guys. It's coming. To come back to the topic of unlikable female leads, just being aggressive or bitchy or assertive is not enough to make audiences dislike a character. Or this lady would have been completely out of favor. I'm sure there were people who were like, I don't know if I like her. But by the end of the show, she was feted. People adored her. But also, since I brought up Han Jimin's character in Love Scout, let's talk about other characters who have embodied this male archetype of the charismatic CEO, and audiences have loved them for it. Veronica Park comes to mind from The Secret Life of My Secretary. She was amazing, extremely entitled and out of touch in some ways, and very, very, very relatable in others. But the thing that made you love her was how confident and bold she was, which was refreshing. When this drama came out, a character like Veronica could only be a second lead and not the female lead, because female leads until that time were written in a very noble, self-sacrificial, hardworking, but always in debt mold. Drama creators just didn't seem to think that a character like Veronica could lead a story and still have audience support. But people loved her. I loved her. Watch this video, my first one on this channel, where I explain to you why she was the best character in the drama. Her pursuit of and romance with Daeju, incidentally played by Kuja Sang, who is also in Motel, California. He's one of the childhood boys. That romance was so cute. Another example of a charismatic, entitled CEO played by a woman was Sodana in Run On. Her romance with Lee Young-ha was, I actually think, more popular with audience members than the main couple's romance, because Dana and Young-ha had a very active kind of romance. Like, things were happening in their relationship all the time. Their flirtation, the push and pull was very enjoyable to watch, whereas the main pair was very quiet in the way their relationship developed, in the way they interacted with each other. Just by how dynamic Dana and Young-ha's story was, they ended up becoming the more memorable pair from that drama. So, no, just because a female lead has what is typically a male character archetype does not mean that audiences will feel distanced or, automatically dislike her. However, what I have noticed is that audience members will take an exception to a female lead who will put herself before everybody else in her life. They'll be fine with women plotting literal murders, but not a female character who seems to be selfish. And Kang-hee puts herself before other people in her life. I wouldn't call her selfish, but it does come across that way. So let's talk about her relationship with other characters in Motel California. So Ji Kang-hee left her hometown when she was, I think, 18. Like they say 20 in the show, but you know how they haven't really transitioned out of the whole Korean age thing. So I think they actually mean when she's 18 because they do talk about her going to college in Seoul. So she moves out, and after that, she only meets her father once a year on Christmas, which is also her birthday. They book a room in a hotel, have other people serve them, which kind of makes sense because, they lived in a motel. They were usually once serving other people. So once a year, they would stay in a lavish hotel. They would have people serve them. They would have wine. They would have good food. And just that would be their celebration day. They would do that every single year. So 12 years after she left, she's still meeting her father just once a year. She has no other contact with anybody else, and she has prohibited her dad from telling her old friends, her childhood friends back in her hometown, where she lives or what she's doing. She does come back to her hometown though when somebody who's unrelated to her but she regards as her grandfather passes away. This man happens to be the actual grandfather of the male lead, Yeon-soo. And he hasn't seen her in 12 years. He's waiting for her to come back. And of course, the moment she does come back, he runs up to her and he hugs her. Now let's go back a little. The way the show has her approaching the room in the funeral parlor where all of their old hometown acquaintances are gathered, it's all very dark light and lightning and the gossipy voices of people who have just realized, oh, she's arrived after 12 years, and it's just like there's a rising crescendo happening. She's just full of mystique and this exaggerated air of danger, whereas in reality, she's just a young woman who got fired from her job. She's rented designer clothes and purse, and she is walking in looking the best she can because she knows she's going to be judged from every quarter. It's weirdly relatable. And of course, her attending the wake goes as well as you would expect, which is not very. A fist fight breaks out, and when she leaves, everybody is like, well, it's good she left because who knows what else she would have caused. It's completely understandable why her character cut all contact. And at this point, we haven't even reached the part of the drama where you realize exactly how hurt she was by some of the things that some of these people had said to her directly. We haven't even reached that point, but the general atmosphere makes it very clear that she was unwelcome in the village, and they did not shy away from making that clear to her while she was growing up. So she has a strained relationship with her father. She has a very hostile relationship with her hometown, to the extent that she has cut off contact even with her friends there, the people who still have affection for her, because she was that hurt and that tired of that atmosphere. And so she spent 12 years away from that hometown, hoping that when she came back, if she ever did come back, that she makes something so amazing of herself that she would disprove every naysayer back home. That almost didn't happen because she got unfairly blacklisted in her industry. Again, that is a struggle that they show really well. You can kind of see how she was discriminated against because she comes from like a no-name college and doesn't have any backing, is quite poor, but she's extremely creative and she's very confident and brash, which is something her superiors just couldn't tolerate. Like, she wouldn't shut up and not protest when unfair treatment is happening, which means she got fired a lot. And while her career is in a flux and she is pretending that she's doing better off than she actually is to the people of her hometown that she's meeting a dozen years later, she's also reuniting with her childhood love, played by Nainu, Young-soo. Yoon-soo's character is steadfast. He is generally a very non confrontational kind of guy. He likes living in his hometown. He likes working as a veterinarian in that town. He gets along with people. He helps people out unasked. And that is just the kind of life that he wants to keep on living. I like his character a lot. The fact that they gave him that whole weight loss glow up, sure, works for the character. I just wish dramas wouldn't include these things when they have no intention of actually showing that kind of weight loss as an ongoing struggle. I have a very close friend who's had to lose a lot of weight for health reasons, and the amount of work this woman has put into weight loss is incredible. It's not just a matter of locking away your snacks and just exercising a lot. This was regimented, and she was hard on herself, and she needed trainers to keep her on track. There was only very specific kinds of food that she could eat. And then over time, weight loss plateaus, and then you have to change things up to make sure that the weight loss continues. And even after all of that, once she reached the ideal weight that she wanted, which was nowhere near model-esque, it was just a healthy weight in a healthy body, she had to continue to struggle to stay there. It's not easy. Certain bodies just gain weight faster than others. There are hormonal changes that happen. There are a lot of reasons. But what reason does this drama give us for this boy being overweight when he was a teenager? He likes eating a lot. He's just greedy. I hate fat suits. Back to romance. Okay, so Yunsu loves Ji Kang-hee. His one goal in life is to grow up and be worthy of Ji Kang-hee. That's the entire reason he lost weight. That's the reason he's been going to Seoul every weekend to see if he can just accidentally find her and meet her again, even though they have had no contact for over a decade. He's a character who's very romantic. And there are people like that, and I genuinely like his character a lot. But he's also a character whose notions of romance blinds him to Ji Kang-hee's realities. Like in his head, he thinks it's a simple matter of growing up, meeting her again, confessing his continued love, and then the two of them will restart their relationship and they will just live happily ever after. Yeah, in his head, it's just rainbows from there. The problem is that he is tethered to an extremely toxic mother and also the town at large. Some of them have very dead set ideas that can become extremely exhausting for a person to constantly be subjected to. In his imagination, it's a simple matter of him being in a relationship with Ji Kang-hee. In reality, something that Ji Kang-hee seems to have thought about a lot, if she is with him, she's also connected to his venomous mother. She is connected to the rest of the town that she now can never get away from because she can never ask him to sever connections with all of those people. So the price for being with him is also being with the town. The town that has always made her feel like this evil alien creature that is immoral and shouldn't exist. It's a hard ask. It's a very difficult choice. So shouldn't the audience's sympathy be with Ji Kang-hee when Yongsoo meets her on her birthday, confesses his continued love for her, tells her that he's ready for anything she wants, including moving to Seoul, and Ji Kang-hee is really moved. They are about to kiss when he gets a call from his mom, and Ji Kang-hee remembers all of the things I just told you. And so she tells him to stop waiting for her. She says, let's end it here. Let's not do this to each other. Our childhood love ends here. Bye. And walks out of his life for a bit. And people hated that. I saw so many comments and posts from people talking about how her rejecting him made absolutely no sense. And if she is rejecting him, she should absolutely not regret that choice. She should stay out of his life. Why make this good man suffer? He's been waiting for her for so long. I do need to point out that she had never asked him to wait. He said he'll wait. but she didn't actually seem to expect him to wait. Like, there is a difference between her looking back at her childhood romance, missing the boy she was in love with, and carrying with her a construct of him, like hoping that maybe someday something could happen, but not really doing anything about it. She doesn't reach out to him, she doesn't re-establish contact, not really. He is the one who's been waiting and hoping, but also actively working towards the day when they are reunited. She didn't ask him to wait. He did that all on his own. I don't think she should be blamed for him giving up any chance of romance with anyone else. But that point aside, can't she regret it after she said, no, let's end it here? The reason she said, let's end it here is, as Ji Kang-hee explains to a cat on the street, is that it's unfair for her to make him wait when she can't take responsibility for his feelings. Shouldn't we love her for that? That is exactly the kind of attitude a character should have, because she is unable to take responsibility for his feelings. Okay, so keep this one in mind. Her rejection of Yoon-soo is something that a lot of viewers can't stomach. Now let's move on to selfishness. Why did I use that term? Ji Kang-hee's entire personality is one of a hedgehog. She expects the entire world to try and hurt her at every turn, and her life experiences have kind of reinforced that fear. She's also extremely unforgiving. If you have done her wrong, it's highly unlikely that she will ever forgive and forget or be willing to work with you again. And this might have the accidental result of inspiring other people to do better, but it is accidental. She's not out there trying to inspire other people with her model behavior. She is just out there trying to do the thing she loves, being repeatedly told that she can't, and responding to that by hitting out however she can. Those are aspects of her personality that the show fleshes out really well. The part that they don't flesh out, and therefore we can assume is severely lacking in her character, is consideration. Ji Kang-hee is never shown prioritizing somebody else's needs before her. If she doesn't want to do something, she won't do it. If she does want to do something, she will do it. Even if you have a great need, it is unlikely to move her unless she has changed her mind for her own reasons and now wants to do the thing. When writing a character, writers usually take great care to balance out different traits. When a protagonist has glaring negative traits, like they are overly aggressive, they will also be shown to be a soft marshmallow around kids or pets. If they're shown to be extremely selfish and narcissistic, they will also be shown to have a soft corner and do certain nice things for other people when nobody's looking. Without this kind of balancing, it's very hard for a protagonist to stay a protagonist. Even if your hero is basically an anti-hero, you would still be showing a duality in their nature. Now with Ji Kang-hee, that duality comes out when Yoon-soo's the one around. She softens for him. He is one of the only people in her life that she trusts completely and is willing to be vulnerable in front of. However, in the first half of the drama, which is all we have seen till now, it's a 12-episode drama and I think just 7 episodes have aired at this point, she has not yet ever put him before herself. It starts from the first episode where she is saying goodbye to Young-soo at a bus stop where he's crying and she is watching him cry as her bus pulls away. From that moment to all the way to 12 years later when he confesses that he still loves her and wants to be with her, she still chooses herself over him. And for all of the reasons I've told you in this video, the reasons that I understand the way she is, I am fully in support of her choices. But I can also understand how such a character would be very hard to like. What is her redeeming quality? Like all the things I've told you are reasons for her behavior. We understand why she's behaving the way she's behaving, but she is ultimately hurting other people. She hurt her father when she cut him off, essentially, and reduced their relationship to meeting once a year on her birthday. She's hurt her other childhood friends like Arum and Sunghoon and Hanu, who have missed her over the years, but have also accepted that she just does not care to reestablish contact with them. Eventually, when she has to come back to attend the funeral and that contact is sort of forcibly reestablished, she becomes friends with Aram again, who goes to Seoul to visit her and stay with her. And yet, it's a very shallow relationship. Like, at the point where Aram goes to visit Kang-hee at Seoul, Kang-hee's career has already taken a drastically upward turns through a magical train of events. She is now working with people who wholly trust her ability. She's the founding member of an up and coming company that has like a Chaebol's kid as one of the founding members, so it has lots of capital. It's the most perfect situation possible. And this is when she finally allows Aram to come and visit her, because before this she didn't even have a place of her own. She was staying in this tiny rented room outside Seoul. So she could only allow this childhood friend to re-enter her life once she could show the best possible version of herself. And we understand why, right? We have seen how her life was, how determined she is to prove wrong all of the people who doubted her. But this is her childhood friend. And the fact that she is unable to share her actual struggles with this friend and can only show the best possible version of herself to her tells us that Kang-hee is a character who's not interested in reciprocity. She has not been interested in Aram's life either. She has not caught up with any of her friends. She's really not interested in their lives. It's like Aram has genuinely missed her. She wants to know what has been happening in Kang-hee's life. Kang-hee, on the other hand, not so much. And it's the same with her relationship with Yeonsu. Yes, she still is in love with her childhood friend and teenage boyfriend, but she's kind of frozen him in that era of her life, and she has not inquired after him. She knows absolutely nothing about his life, to the point where she finally reunites with him. She can barely recognize him because he's lost so much weight and isn't wearing his specs anymore. Short side note, when they're teenagers, they're having a romantic moment, and she tells Yongsoo to never lose weight and never take his specs off. A decade later, she drunkenly complains that Yeonsu didn't keep any of his promises to her. He promised not to lose weight, not to take off his specs, but he's done both. And to my mind, this implies that the reason she had wanted him to stay exactly like that were entirely selfish. On the one hand, she wanted him to remain unchanged because that way her memories of him are never challenged, it's preserved. The other reason being that she knew that he would get very popular with other girls once he lost weight and took off his specs. Like, even her hopes for him is all about herself. When I think about these aspects of her character, Ji Kang-hee is difficult to like. She is difficult to like in all her interactions with the people who like her, the people who love her, the people who support her. The fact that Ji Kang-hee doesn't just reserve her prickly hedgehogginess for people who have actually done her harm, but that she deploys those weapons against people who love her, makes her a character who's hard to like. But that is Ji Kang-hee specifically, right? This is not a drama land, trend, right? Well, think back to Miju from Run On, played by Shin Se-kyung. This was another female lead who was not liked by viewers of the drama. As much as they loved Dana, they didn't like Miju. If I remember correctly, the aspects of her character that people had most difficulty with was that she ultimately put herself before everyone else. She was also a character who was underappreciated in her field of work and then manages to regain control and some amount of success also through the help of a female mentor, which we see in Motel California. Love that for both these dramas. At one point, her character breaks up with Ki Song-hyun, played by Im Shi-won, and the reasons are solid. They are solid, but it is yet another instance where she puts herself above his sincere affections towards her. And again, he has a complicated family. She doesn't need that stuff in her life. Like, her reasons are solid, but it's not enough. People didn't understand what her problem was. Why was she breaking up with a guy who clearly loved her? She loves him. What is your problem? Make it work. But she doesn't. I mean, ultimately, they do. But at that point, she doesn't. Look at a more recent drama, Love Next Door. I've rarely seen the female lead of a popular romantic K-drama getting dragged as much as Sukru was in the show. Sukru is a character who has clinical depression. She has just broken her engagement with a man she has been in a relationship with for several years, whom she was about to marry, whom she was clearly in love with. But despite this, audiences really disliked Sukru's initially oblivion towards her childhood bestie's feelings and later refusal to hear his confession. The fact that Sukru knows herself well enough to understand that she is not ready to hear his confession didn't seem to matter. What seemed to matter was that the male lead was ready to confess after 30 years of keeping his peace, and Sukru was being the obstacle to their happiness. Why can't she just listen to his confession, they get together, and things will be fine? Instead, Sukru insists on prioritizing herself. When she does sense that Sung-hyo is about to confess, she tells him to wait. She says she's not ready. And Sung-hyo responds to this by being annoyed and later on just forcing the confession on her. I am not a fan of this drama, but my sympathies throughout that show lay with Sukru, not Sung-hyo. He was not the one who was done badly by. So yeah, this is why I think even though Ji Kang-hee will invariably end up with Young-soo, she will make peace with her dad, with the hometown. She will get her happily ever after because this is a romantic mellow. I don't think audiences will ever get over their initial dislike of her character. Because no matter what happens in the latter half of the drama, no matter how many flashbacks show us that Ji Kang-hee's defensiveness and selfishness was entirely justified, the fact that she has been shown to put herself before the male lead's need to confess and the male lead's earnest love for her is crime enough. So what I'm getting at, my friends, is that Ji Kang-hee is genuinely a hard-to-like character. But she's not an unsympathetic character. She's not a character whom you would naturally dislike. The reason we likely do is probably that she is able to walk away from the male lead. Not devastated and torn up about it, but just making a decision for herself, realizing that this is not what she needs in her life, and just walking away. Yes, Ji Kang-hee is an unlikable heroine, but the way we hate her, that's not justified. Thank you for watching this video. Watch more of my videos or comment below and tell me if you actually are quite enjoying Motel California and really like Kang-hee and that this video was completely unnecessary. I would be quite happy to hear that.